Hello, and welcome to the CX Innovators podcast produced by Networld Media Group. I'm Judy Model, editor of Retail Customer Experience. Our guest today is Mark Frumkin, Director of Customer Success at Modulate, which is the sponsor of this episode. So, Modulate provides real time conversational and voice intelligence technology for the customer service and contact center environment. Its solutions include ToxMod, which is real-time detection of harassment and abuse, and Voice Vault, which is fraud and identity verification through voice. They work as a safeguard agent role against abusive callers, protecting customers from scams and fraud, and ensuring compliance, all while reducing call times and any friction in the customer experience. Mark leads a team in partnering with customers in the gaming and retail delivery space, including Activision, Riot Games, and Rockstar Games. He oversees Modulate customer success strategy, ensuring smooth onboarding and ongoing successful outcomes for customers, helping them to detect and prevent abuse and fraud in their voice channels and phone lines. Before joining Modulate, Mark was a consultant at Deloitte, where he led projects to deliver cutting edge tech across various industries. So thanks for being here, Mark.
Thanks so much for having me, Judy. It's great to be here.
So, we're talking today about online retailers and how they can deploy AI tools to improve fraud detection and reducing harmful customer interaction and elevating both the customer and the agent experience. How big of a challenge is phone based harassment against call center agents? And what are some of the hidden costs that companies might not even realize come with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a few different angles that you can approach here. So I want to talk a little bit about, the challenge for agents and the experiences that they have, and then what that actually means for their employers and the companies that are running these call centers as well. One of the greatest challenges, of course, is that agents are experiencing abuse and harassment. And unfortunately, abuse and harassment seems to be up from voice chat, especially over the last 4 years. There's been a bunch of post surveys in the post-pandemic times that have shown, kind of steady incline and increase of abuse and harassment of contact center agents. In fact, 1 in 4 contact center agents are actually experiencing this kind of harassment. And unfortunately, more than half of those that are affected never end up reporting that harassment as well. They don't end up reporting those incidents. It's also important to note that audio-based abuse is worse and has been noted to be more negatively impactful for the agents than text-based abuse. So not only is abuse in general up, but especially abuse in voice conversations, in those call center conversations, that's up and harming folks even more. Judy also mentioned, what are those hidden costs that are the consequences of this kind of abuse. Some of those costs are not quite hidden. Others are a little bit more kind of under the radar there. Of course, one of the biggest costs is contact center turnover and turnover of agents. And so, with harassment being up, we're seeing anywhere between 30 and 45%, turnover range, which can cost, up to $20,000 per exited agent. And when we're talking about those hidden costs, those costs are really, what happens before the agent turns over? What happens before the agent says they don't want to do this anymore and they're going to move on and find, a better experience? That lost productivity and they're feeling not engaged and being less engaged also has, those hidden costs of, almost around the same, anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000 per agent, according to some modeling from the American Journal of Preventative Medicine that they've been doing in 2025. So abuse is up. Voice chat abuse is even worse than text abuse. And per on a per agent basis, companies can be looking at, upwards of $40,000 worth of cost, just because this is happening to their agents and their employees.
Wow, I mean, 1 in 4. I didn't expect the number to be that high.
Mm.
Um, what does that daily verbal abuse mean for an agent's mental health, as we talked about retention, and how it kind of clearly drives into the overall customer experience? Because an agent being harassed, and it's kind of hard to be up and positive and you know engage with a customer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise. I hope it's not a surprise to anybody listening that this kind of abuse really is a drain on mental health. And it pushes folks to look for other opportunities where they're not experiencing the same thing. Agents that are exhausted, agents that are checked out are delivering a worse customer experience, and a lower first call resolution as well. And that kind of starts feeding this vicious cycle of experiencing abuse, experiencing harassment, not being able to deliver on the customer experience that you really want to because you're feeling so drained. And that kind of begets perhaps even more unpleasant experiences from the customer as well. And so it's a really tough thing to manage without having the tools to manage it. The same surveys that I was just talking about say that, 70% of customer service workers are saying that this rising hostility is negatively impacting their health. One positive stat from those surveys, however, is that 77 to 80% of those contact center agents did say that they feel like their managers and that their employers really do care about improving that for them. So we're not just looking at kind of this hopeless, expanse of, experiences both from the customer side and from the agent side. There are folks that are interested in helping. There are folks that really care about the experience, not just of the customer, but of their agents as well. But it's really important to understand that while you're fixing this kind of abuse, this kind of harassment continues to have, a really negative effect on your agents as well. And so it's important to help them and support them, but it's very difficult to do that without the structure that you need.
So we mentioned the 1 in 4, but there was also a statistic about how many go unreported. So it could be more than 1 in 4, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that a lot of my experience at Modulate and Modulate's customer success team experience is working with gaming companies. And we see something very similar there, where so much behavior, negative and toxic behavior that folks are experiencing in these live conversations goes unreported. And it's for some of the same reasons that it goes unreported on the contact center side as well. Folks think that reporting is pointless and that they're kind of shouting into the void when they're submitting a report about something bad that happened to them. The processes that are underlying these reports are murky and opaque to sometimes even the folks that are handling the reports themselves. And so a lot of our work with various gaming studios, with delivery companies, gig economy companies, is not just about understanding what's happening in voice chat and voice connections and conversations. It's also about giving them the ability to provide more transparency about their reporting process to everybody that's part of those conversations, from the agent side all the way to the customer side as well.
So how does Modulate's ToxMod, and I'd love to know how that name came up. How does
Yeah.
that technology help detect the abuse without adding more work for the supervisors and managers?
Happy to talk about the name first. So, kind of the point behind ToxMod was to help gaming studios understand what is happening in voice chat and where people are harassing or abusing other players, right? So that they can actually put a stop to that kind of behavior proactively without waiting for a user report to come in. We just talked about how many of these activities go completely unreported. And so, if you're able to proactively get ahead of that kind of behavior, you can really have a really large impact on the experience of players in the game, boosting retention, decreasing churn, and overall making it a safer place to be. And so, what we were really looking for, or what our customers in that case were looking for, was toxicity moderation, ToxMod. And so that's kind of how the name came to be. It's very kind of punchy, which is great. But of course, it can be pretty unique to the gaming space itself, which is why it's really important to note that Modulate's focus is not just on toxicity moderation. Modulate's capabilities are centered around conversational voice intelligence. We have the ability to understand everything that's happening in voice, which includes what's being said, so like the transcription of the audio itself, but it also includes how it's being said, the emotional affect, the tone of the voice, the cadence, how other people are reacting to it as well. So being able to deeply understand what's happening in those conversations, escalate that understanding in real time with prepackaged context that's readily accessible and understandable for supervisors, or for moderators, or whoever's looking at what the results of the analysis are. Makes it possible to intervene instead of spending so much of your time digging. So you mentioned, how do we do this without increasing the workload of supervisors? It's not something that's free, right? You do have to take a look at this analysis. You do have to understand what's going on, when you're getting this kind of report. But all of the time that you previously spent digging for evidence and kind of sifting through, maybe pieces of conversation and some reports here, but no reports on this side. Now you get an opportunity to understand what's happening in the moment and make a decision, an informed decision, relatively quickly, on what you actually can do from here and what actions you can take from here. So we've seen ToxMod transform these gaming environments, which are super high volume, super high stakes interactions, into much safer spaces. And now those same principles are really helping protect agents and protecting customers as well. In both of these situations, AI is the safety net that's kind of underpinning your structure for policies and guidance and things like that. So it spots the problems early and it gives humans the tools to act without drowning them in a bunch of noise. So it's really important to note that it is still humans working with these AI tools. It's not just AI running free.
So is the conversation happening between just the call agent and the customer, or is it like the conversation within the gaming environment as well?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it really depends on how you're going to implement, our voice intelligence capabilities, and it depends on, what is the core way that your users or your customers and agents engage in the game. So if we're talking about a video game environment, that typically looks like, a group of people, maybe one to three, sorry, two to three in size, all the way up to 12 people talking all at once, in a match, or even more talking in a large social experience game, which makes it really important that you're able to tease apart who's saying what, who are they saying it to, how those folks are reacting. When it's more commonly a one-on-one conversation, like what you see between agents, and customers, of course, you don't have to spend as much effort understanding who's talking and who's saying what, and who's responding. But those same kind of principles of grouping users that can hear each other together and providing information about what's happening in that voice chat group or that voice call group, that remains the same from the gaming space to, the retail and CX space as well.
So once harassment is detected, what's the best way for an organization to respond? You know, both on the moment, in the call, and
Mhm.
on the policy level.
Yeah. That second piece that you just mentioned, Judy, is so important, the policy level. It's you have to start with a policy whenever we start working with a new customer. One of the first questions that my team asks is, do you have a code of conduct, or do you have guidelines and policies and that set expectations with your users on what you're looking for in the way that they engage with others on your platform? You need something that's clear and that's concise, and most importantly, something that's visible, right? It's very, you don't want to warn somebody about their behavior and say, well, if you had looked at the fine print in this document somewhere here on our website, you would see that this kind of behavior is unacceptable, right? That's a ton of friction, and let's be real here. It's kind of difficult to find all of the various nuances within those kind of large documents and pieces of documentation. So something that's clear, concise, that's visible helps you set those expectations up front with your customers, and also helps you kind of talk to your agents about what they should be expecting and what your policies are and how you kind of help them take a stand. So you have to start from the policy level. That's super important because it's allowing you to set expectations across the board. From there, you can start to build in more structured ways of intervening when you do spot this kind of behavior occurring, behavior that's against those policies. Things like warnings, and minimal time infractions are very common in the gaming space, right? Letting somebody know that they've crossed the line, and that you actually care and that you're paying attention. That helps cut those repeat offense rates by a tremendous amount, because people understand now, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. It's against the policies or against the code of conduct, and they're really, they care, and they tell me that I can't do that. That's a little bit different in the retail space in these kinds of conversations as well, right? So you may have different goals where, muting a customer is not an acceptable response to them, calling in and perhaps, getting really angry, or really upset with the agent. But there are certain interventions that you can take, and it really depends on the goals of the organization and the training of your agents. So there can be de-escalatory measures, or de-escalation language that agents can be trained to use. Or in the policy, you can even write, hey, when you get warned by an agent, that you're kind of towing the line here, they're only going to do that once. And after that, it's going to transfer to a different kind of method of interaction that protects the agents and make sure that you still get the job done, right? You still solve the customer's problem. That goal is to change behavior over time, but you have to be transparent about how you're going to do it.
Right. So where does policy, like enactment and enforcement, kind of land if you look at the enterprise? Is it, say, in a contact center, say, is it the first level of management, or is it something that has to come from the very top and be funneled down so that everybody, is in the mix when it comes to setting policy and enforcing it?
The best way to deal with that, or the best way to solve this kind of problem, is to get the buy-in from the top, of course, right? The goals that everybody has across the company, the strategic initiatives of the company, are coming from the top as well. And so it's really important to get buy-in on the right policy and the right way to engage with your customers. And of course, set expectations internally about what you care about and how you're going to protect your agents and make this a better space for them to work, how you're going to prepare them to deal with some of the frustrations and anxieties of the customer, and how you're going to help them, or reinforce their decisions and their actions that they end up taking. So if you have this coming down from the top, if you're setting policy together with senior leaders and getting their buy-in, it makes it much easier to uphold that policy, and it makes it much easier for agents to trust that the company does in fact care about them, and that they have a process in place for when these different things happen on the in the call as well. So very important to get that buy-in from the top. Although, of course, the folks that are the closest to those experiences are going to have some really strong opinions about what belongs in the policy and what doesn't. So there's going to be folks that are experts. It's all about communicating in the same language with leadership in how adopting this policy is actually going to help achieve the strategic goals of the company. Once you've got that buy-in, you set the policy, and then you can build some structure around that.
So if I'm looking to deploy Modulate, is there anything I should know or do ahead of time, like anything internal or in terms of maybe kind of introducing the idea of having AI help us with
Mhm.
getting rid of her, decreasing the harassment level, you know?
Yeah. That's a great question. Well, the first thing to note is that no matter where you're at as a company, we're happy to help and happy to advise and guide and share our experience as well. So I would say that there's no specific prerequisites to having a conversation with the Modulate team about how Modulate's conversational intelligence capabilities can actually help you achieve your goals. That being said, I do think it's important to note that you should have some goals in mind, right? And they can be fairly broad goals like, we want to reduce harassment of our agents, or we want to increase first call resolution without, warnings in place or something like that. Very helpful to have a solid understanding of where you're at right now and where you'd like to go. And it's appropriate, of course, if you're understanding, if you're present day understanding is we have no idea where we're at and we want to understand where we're actually at. That's something that we've helped numerous companies kind of get to, because of course, our bread and butter is voice analytics and conversational voice intelligence, and that can be as complex as specific hotspots in a conversation and insights into how these different actors kind of behave on a individual level, on like in a one conversation level, all the way across all of your conversations. So our analyses can go as complex as that, and they can go as as simple as you've got this many calls happening at the same time with this many customers. The calls typically are around this time in length, and here's the kinds of behavior that we're finding. So we're happy to help you get off the ground, or we're happy to help you kind of fly even higher if you've already gotten there. The only thing that you need to know is, would you like to get better at what's happening today? And if yes, we're happy to help with that.
Right? And I think that other piece of everything, which is retention of the call
Mhm.
center agent, because you invest a lot of training for the call center, and to put in all that time and training, and then they're harassed on a daily basis, and they're leaving, or they're causing kind of like their own unique customer experience issues. um, it goes a long way, I think, to saving money, keeping people happy in their jobs, and a better customer experience at the very end of the equation, right?
Absolutely.
So, if you had one piece of advice for customer service leaders who are looking to protect their teams, what would it be?
One piece of advice is hard, so I'm going to give one kind of blanket piece of advice, and then maybe a couple of bullet points under it to
Okay.
to help build some structure there. I think that the most important thing to note, and something that we recommend to all of our customers, no matter what industry they're in, what tools they're using, and what their goals are if you're making moves in the safety space to protect your customers or to protect your agents, you should be making those moves transparently and visibly so that you can build trust and set the right expectations with every single participant. Transparency is valuable to everybody and especially valuable to your customers. We were talking a little bit about why this kind of activity is not reported. Well, it's because people don't know what happens when they submit a report. It's so powerful to tell them, you've submitted a report here, and this is what's going to happen next. It's going to get reviewed now, and these are the kinds of actions that you can expect us to take. It doesn't guarantee that the report is going to be resolved in a specific way, but it at least provides some information. The same with setting policies and code of conduct. If you do that hidden somewhere in your privacy policy, nobody's going to get a chance to read it. And at worst, they'll feel like you're sneaking something by them, which is, of course, a terrible feeling as a customer or as an agent of a company as well. So, the one piece of advice, the blanket piece of advice is whatever you're doing in this space, do it transparently and do it visibly. And then the bullet points below that are, a few different things that you can do, like publishing a zero abuse policy and backing your agents when they actually enforce it, or using AI to do instrument reporting so that every single incident is easy to log and review, and then sharing that information, within the company, of course, to help keep people informed about what's going on. You know, Tracking safety signals next to customer satisfaction and that first call resolution rate, like abuse flagged rate, or the time to intervention, post incident agent check ins. There's so many different capabilities that are unlocked once you understand what's happening in those conversations, but it won't do you much good to just keep those pieces of data so close and not build upon them with your team as well.
Right. Well, thank you, Mark. This has been a great, informative discussion. Um, I hope we can always reach out to you for any other knowledge we need. Thanks to you for being here in the CX Innovators podcast. For our listeners, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and also log on to retailcustomerexperience.com. You can sign up for our newsletter and you'll never miss a great podcast like this. And there's also a podcast page link in the side nav column. Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks so much for having me, Judy. This was a great chat, and hope to be on another conversation with you soon.